Good morning. Good morning. If the clerk will please, I call this meeting to order. If the clerk will please open the roll for attendance and members show that you're present. And thank you. We do have a quorum, Madam Clerk.
Madam Chair, I have a motion. I move that we carry over under Rule 22, HJ1, HJ2, and HJ9.
It's been moved and properly seconded that we carry over HJ1, HJ2, and HJ9. All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Those three are carried over. Thank you. Okay. So we do have quite a lengthy docket, so we're going to give everyone 1 minute to speak in favor or opposition for the bills online and in person so that we can get through our business today. We do have one administrative action at the request of the patron. The motion would be to strike HB 254 from the docket. It's been moved and properly seconded that we strike HB 254 from the docket. If the clerk will please open the roll, this is a recorded vote. And that bill is stricken from the record on a vote of 21-0. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, so we are going to handle the bills in front of full committee and then move to our subcommittee report. So we will start with HB 190.
Thank you, Madam Chair. HB 190 aims to prohibit the energy companies which profit from ratepayers or our constituents from contributing to political campaigns and committees of the government officials tasked with regulating them. This bill does not prevent individuals or unions from making contributions, only the regulated monopolies themselves. And listen, I'm not here to cast shame on the money we took to get here. I'm just calling for a jubilee, if you will, or to wipe the slate clean. And I want to settle some concerns. I've heard from different people about the concerns on the bill. We've heard that this bill would be unconstitutional. But Buckley versus Vallejo clearly established that it was in the government's interest to regulate campaign contributions to limit real or perceived quid pro quo favor for favor assistance. I've also heard that the bill is discriminatory, but the bill serves to end permitted discrimination against the masses, discrimination against the citizens who can only afford to voice their free speech as far as their very limited wealth can afford. And this bill I view as an equalizer. I've also heard that this bill is unprecedented for the Commonwealth of Virginia, but New York prohibits corporate contributions, Connecticut prohibits public service company contributions, New Jersey has restrictions and regulations on public utility company contributions, and even Florida prohibits several industries from making contributions, including public utility monopolies. And I would encourage my colleagues to consider our role in ensuring fairness in campaigns and in democracy. Some would quote James Madison, if man were angels, no government would be necessary. But I'm a big geek and I like comic books, so I want to give some good reference from The Watchmen. Who watches The Watchmen? And so, Madam Chair, I would hope it would be the privilege of the body to report and pass the bill to the floor.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from the subcommittee? Delegate Bloxham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just curious, you cited the court case. Would there not be other entities that donate heavily into our campaigns that would fall under that same court case?
Madam Chair, I would respond to the gentleman by stating that that is possible, but this bill is specifically aimed at publicly regulated monopolies.
Any further questions or comments from the subcommittee? Okay, if there's anyone.
Madam Chair.
I'm so sorry, we're working on a thing. Thank you for calling that. Delegate Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for the patron. So the question that I have is, the wording here in the code is, or proposed code is very specific, no candidate, campaign committee, or political committee. What about third-party organizations, PACs, that collect money and then redistribute them to candidates? Would this prohibit them from getting money from these public utilities?
Madam Chair, I would respond to the gentleman that the bill is narrowly aimed at making sure that these regulated monopolies do not contribute to candidates themselves.
Madam Chair, speaking to the bill.
Delegate, well, let's take testimony and then we can come back to that. If there's anybody in the room that would like to speak in favor of House Bill 190, please come forward. And please remember, we did say 1 minute per person. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Jane Newell, and this morning I'm speaking for the League of Women Voters of Virginia. The League strongly supports HB 190. The League believes that no one contributor should have undue influence on the outcome of an election and has long supported banning regulated utilities from contributing to campaigns. Data from VPAP confirms that the last election was the most expensive on record for Virginia, and that was $775,000 contributed by Dominion Energy. Virginia's public utility topped the list of large donors. That figure does not include any amount given through PACs, through Dominion's PAC, so that could well be higher. A 2021 poll conducted by the Wasson Center at Christopher Newport University showed that 56% of the respondents statewide favor banning corporate contributions altogether, which further supports restricting utilities. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's anyone else to speak in favor of this legislation, is there anyone in the room to speak opposed to this legislation? Please come forward.
Madam Chair, Chris Nolan, McGuire Woods on behalf of Dominion Energy. This is the 8th year that the General Assembly has had a bill similar to this. Very much respect to Patron and the Watchman reference. I will say, though, that on the point of regulated monopoly, 3-tier alcohol distribution system, certificate of public need, auto dealer franchise laws, gaming, cannabis, medical marijuana. Those are all exclusive franchises that this General Assembly has enshrined in the Code of Virginia. Where are they in this bill? They're not. This singles out one class of entity to impinge on their free speech rights and freedom of association rights, to the point of Delegate Scott. This prohibits contributing to a political action committee. That in and of itself limits our freedom of association. With that, Madam Chair, I know my time is up. More to say, but we'll leave it for another time. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Morgan Whalen with Virginia Natural Gas. We're also opposed to this bill. I think it's important to note for corporate contributions to PAC, these are for shareholders' expense. They are not ratepayers' expense. And our PAC is a mix of our shareholders and also a local golf tournament that is supported by small businesses in Hampton Roads, who are smaller in size and scale and utilize our PAC to advocate for the natural gas industry and sufficient energy in Hampton Roads. And for those reasons, we respectfully oppose the bill. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Patrina Jones-Robleski, and I work for Columbia Gas of Virginia. We oppose this bill because we have an employee PAC. It has 40 members that range from specialists in engineering, construction, field, corrosion, damage prevention, regulatory, legal. And this is a group of employees that they just want to support candidates that value them and value what we do for the Commonwealth. And they have given me feedback, and the number one phrase is, why are we being singled out? And why at this critical time for our industry? And for those reasons, we hope you'll oppose. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. John Morris, Appalachian Power. APCO uses its involvement in the political process to let policymakers know how legislation affects its ratepayers, especially financially. And we oppose in this legislation that public utilities are singled out for this treatment, this restriction, and by inference, by effect, allowing others with different or opposing views to participate in the political process. Our contributions are not recovered in rates. We disclose all contributions as required under federal or state law, and therefore we ask that the committee reject the legislation. Thank you.
Cindy DeFranco with Principal Advantage. On behalf of Washington Gas, I associate myself with the comments of our colleagues from Virginia Natural Gas, Columbia Gas, and Appalachian Power. We feel that it is an unfair position to put our hardworking employees in, and we ask that you oppose the bill.
Thank you. We'll now go online and reminding everyone that we have 1 minute. And first we have Nancy Morgan. One second, Ms. Morgan.
Hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now. Your time will start now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm the coordinator of Big Money Out. We work on campaign finance reform. And clearly, as the patron mentioned, contributions from state-regulated monopolies to legislators who vote on bills influencing these entities is perceived by the public as a conflict of interest. And just to emphasize, there are at least 5 states, in addition to what mentioned the patron, that specifically prohibit public utilities from making contributions to candidates. These include Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, New Mexico, and Atlanta. So there is a precedent for this type of rule to public utilities. Obviously, our group supports the total level of the playing field through a general limits bill. However, apparently that's not going to happen this year. However, this bill is important and it clearly eliminates a conflict of interest between a state-regulated corporation and the body that provides oversight and regulation. So we really hope you support this bill, and we hope that you don't send, if it passes, it doesn't go to appropriations. Thank you very much.
And now we'll come back to the subcommittee. I have Delegate Leftwich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are you hearing comments to the bill, or are you still taking questions?
Let's see if there are any questions first. We'll give the patron the last word and then see what the subcommittee has. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. Delegate Cole, did you want to have the last word before we entertain statements?
Yes, Madam Chair, I appreciate it. I just think that we've been doing this for a long time, and I think many people are awaiting campaign finance reform here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I have heard the concerns of the people who stood in opposition today. I do want to clarify that this bill does not prevent workers' PACs from donating. This is just prohibiting the publicly regulated monopolies from donating. And I think it's very key that as we move into the future, we're going to have to take some of the concerns of the people in the Commonwealth of Virginia very seriously as well. So, Madam Chair, I thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the time. And I hope that the committee will look favorably upon this.
Okay, thank you. And Delegate Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Speaking to the bill.
Yes.
As the patron just said, and I thank the patron for bringing this bill, this is a very good conversation to have, but there's nothing that would prohibit the employees of Dominion from forming a new PAC and contributing to that under a different name of Virginians for Power or whatever it may be, and then making those political contributions, because now it's not being affiliated with an entity. And what that does is it hides the money. Or they could donate to another organization that would then redistribute the money to candidates or political action committees. And so right now, under current law, everything is very transparent. If Dominion gives money to me, it's reported. If Dominion gives money to the House Republican caucus or the House Democrat caucus, and then that money is redistributed to candidates, it is clearly visible to the public. And by this type of reform, all that it does is it takes money that's very transparent to the public and it turns it into dark money where people don't know where the money's coming from, how it's being funneled, and so I've got concerns about this bill.
Delegate Henson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a clarifying comment, if I could.
I'm sorry.
I had a clarifying comment to, I believe it was Appalachian Power Dominion.
Okay. Are they still in the room?
If one of them want to come up, I believe, I don't know if it was Appalachian Power or Dominion that stated that they do not charge ratepayers for the lobbying activities that they do here. But according to a bill that I was carrying that did not pass out of this House, it was, according to the SCC, that $925,000 were improperly charged to ratepayers. And for Dominion in 2023, $300,000 was attempted to be charged to ratepayers. In 2021, $5.77 million. And in 2015, $45,000. So I just wanted to let the people know that according to the SEC, it is being done, but there's nothing being done to correct those wrongs. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So it wasn't a question. Okay. Delegate Leftwich.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with my colleague, Delegate Scott, that this is a good conversation to have. But as I read the bill, it incorporates a definition of public utility that's found in a different section of the code, and that's 56-232. And that, I respectfully would disagree with the patron that definition captures a much broader array of individuals or persons as besides Dominion. And for example, if I get my reading glasses on, and I'm just pulling, I'm not going to read the parts that don't apply to this particular remark I'm making, but it says, public utility shall mean and embrace every individual that may now or hereafter own. So as I interpret that, an individual stockholder in any one of these public utilities cannot contribute. That's me. I have stock in public utilities, and that means I could not contribute to myself or to anybody else. And so while I agree that this is a good conversation and perhaps we need to act on it, I can't support the bill as it's presently drafted.
Delegate Milday.
Good morning, Madam Chair, and thank you. Just a comment and maybe a question if the patron wants to take it as a question. We're hearing big money out, leveling the playing field. These are catchy and popular terms, but if you take a look at any campaign finance report from anyone sitting up here or anywhere, anyone running in the Commonwealth, you'll find out that where the big money really is on the other side of the aisle. And this seems to attempt to even further unlevel the playing field in my eyes. And what I've noticed is that these companies don't choose, they're not specific to a party. They have a right, just because their capital investments are so great that they can't, it doesn't make sense to have competition or try to replicate power lines and things like that. That doesn't mean the owners of these companies, whether they be large owners or stockholders, don't have a right to have a weigh in on the representation that would best, that seeks to, look out for their interests. So I just really am surprised that people would say things like big money out and leveling the playing field. That's not what's happening here. This is an attempt to skew the field even further by one political party.
Okay, are there any further questions or comments from the committee? Committee operates on motion. Okay, thank you, Delegate Cole. We'll move to House Bill 280. I believe at the patron's request, the motion would be for that to go by for the day.
So moved, Madam Chair.
All right.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to say the patrons in public safety, so he'd asked to go by for the day. Thank you.
Okay. And so that, all those in favor? Any opposed? So House Bill 280 is by for the day. Delegate Reed, House Bill 363.
Thank you, Madam Chair. House Bill 363 is a bill that tries to address an issue that many states have been trying to figure out how to implement. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment since the January 6, 2021 attempted insurrection. And in this particular piece of legislation, What this primarily focuses on is a self-certification and a substantial penalty for making a false statement. The crux of this particular piece of legislation is that it asks the individual who is applying to be a candidate to certify whether they did or did not participate in the insurrection or provide aid and comfort under the definition of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. And then it creates a substantial penalty in the event that the person is later found out to have falsified that affidavit. So, Madam Chair, that is the intent behind this legislation, and I'd be willing to entertain any questions.
Okay, are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in favor of House Bill 363? Anyone here to speak in opposition to 363? Please come forward, and you have 1 minute.
Hi, good morning. My name is Nancy Smith with Middle Resolution PAC. I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I'll be brief. I understand that you have got crossover in many bills to consider. In this case, I believe it's a clear case of suppression of First Amendment rights of individuals in our attempt to do so. In the cases being implicated as a basis for this bill, no charges have been brought forward nor a decision rendered in terms of an insurrection, and we all know that. Oral arguments were heard yesterday. I hope that you'll have a chance to hear those over the weekend, and the healthy debate that is being held by the Supreme Court in this situation. I believe that the legislature of Virginia, in many instances related to this and to HB 280, which is not being heard today, is that the legislature of Virginia is acting as prosecutor, judge, and jury in the situation. We oppose this bill. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Delegate Sickles? Oh, I'm sorry. Delegate Gilbert.
Question for the patron, Madam Chair.
Delegate Gilbert.
If I'm looking at it right, so could the delegate explain what the term "who is found" means? I'm trying to figure out what term of art that references, or the determination of that, and by whom.
Delegate Reed.
What line are you referring to?
Any person who is found, by whom?
Any person who is found to have engaged in an insurrection or rebellion against the United States.
Right, by whom? Found by whom, Madam Chair, would be my question.
And that is a really good question because, again, kind of contrary to what the other person had indicated, there have already been several hundred individuals who have been convicted for having participated in an insurrection. And this is one of the things that's really very important about the distinction of this. This does not target any specific individual. It does not name any specific individual. It is a self-identification that you can clearly say when you, much like we have to say, we live in the district, we've not done any of these type of things, and therefore we are qualified to be a candidate. What this is it would create an additional affidavit that says, you certify that you have not participated in or given aid or comfort, and these are the definitions that come out of the U.S. Constitution.
Further question, Madam Chair.
Delegate Gilbert.
So is it limited to the filing of the affidavit, or is there in fact some other process by which I'm trying to determine by which someone could be found to have run afoul of the intent of your bill?
The intent, Madam Chair, is that it is a self-identification, and then you could later be found that you have violated this because of either additional charges or someone could be able to bring some type of case against you if they were able to prove that you were providing aid and comfort. And again, this is the really important aspect of this, is that this is already written into the Constitution, and we like to talk about the current Supreme Court being originalist in nature, and the Constitution is not an a la carte menu. You can't choose to be very specific about one amendment and then choose to be ambiguous about another amendment. And the language in Section 3 of the 14th Amendment is really very clear.
Madam Chair, further question. I apologize. Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the courtesy. So everybody knows what we're talking about here, right?
Madam Chair?
That wasn't the end of my question, but well, let me just keep going. I'm not sure how many questions I'll get. So everybody clearly knows what we're talking about. There was an example. What I'm concerned about is how we're not passing ideas here, we're passing laws. The gentleman used the term convicted. This doesn't say convicted, this says found. By whom? Under what circumstances? Convicted, I understand. That means a court of law somewhere found something and decided it, and it's a conviction. The problem with this is, as you well know, as the gentleman well knows, Madam Chair, a public official in New Hampshire recently just unilaterally found that someone had violated the Constitution in some way. And I'm just concerned, if you're going to use the word, if the gentleman's going to use the word conviction, that is something I understand. If he's going to use the word found, which is in this bill, that's something I don't understand, and I don't understand the...
Delegate Gilbert, did you have a question?
Well, who's going to find this? Who can find that someone has run afoul of the Constitution in this way?
And Madam Chair, and again, the intent of this is that this is self-identifying because, again, if you are signing the affidavit, you are indicating that you have not participated in or provided aid and comfort against the United States, much like we ask people to identify that they live in a district, that they've not committed other items that prevents them from being candidates. And the reason for the substantial penalty on this is much like a piece of legislation that we passed earlier with Delegate Watts, is that we have found that it is really very easy for individuals to go, oh, yes, I live in the district, or, oh, I don't, you don't file your reports, and then your name still ends up on the ballot. So this is intended to be self-identifying, and contrary to what the delegate may be, this is not targeted at any particular individual. That's the reason why it's self-identifying for anyone who is running for office in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Delegate Gilbert.
Just speaking to the bill at the appropriate time.
Okay, we'll come back. Delegate Leftwich, did you have a question or speaking to the bill?
Speaking to the bill.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Delegate Maldonado, is this a question?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, go for it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm reading the bill and I'm thinking that perhaps the confusion here, line 35, that says any person who is found to have engaged in insurrection. And I'd like to ask the patron if that, by that, who is found means anybody who has identified on their affidavit that they have engaged in such activity. Is that what that line is meant to say?
Madam Chair, if I may respond, yes. Delegate Maldonado, that would be a correct review of that particular language in the legislation. Thank you.
Delegate Phillips, do you have a question or speaking to the bill?
I guess I have a question.
Delegate Phillips?
So the other word here I see is rebellion. How would you define rebellion? I mean, that's a...
Madam Chair, I would ask the member to go back and again look at the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. The language in here was lifted directly from that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Delegate Gilbert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Some of the questions that I'm asking are about the section drawn to the 24.2.201.1, disqualification from holding public office. I see that there's another section regarding this affidavit that a candidate would have to file, but going back to the other section, again, Madam Chair, we do not pass ideas here, we pass laws, and when you have a law, it has to be something that is clear enough to be properly interpreted by a court of law. And this just says a person who is found. Again, some public official in New Hampshire just decided unilaterally that President Trump engaged in insurrection. Just unilaterally said it, a person without a law degree, by the way. So this is not even something where a court of law has weighed in on this. And this, frankly, this bill doesn't even require it. And I just think that's incredibly dangerous to have something this inartfully drawn have the kind of ramifications that it does. But maybe that's not the intent of the bill. Maybe the intent of the bill is a different message. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Delegate Leftwich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to kind of piggyback on Delegate Gilbert's comments, although he doesn't need any help. I forgot his name there for a minute.
My friend.
Yeah, my friend. So I find the language to be extremely broad and ambiguous. I tend to focus in on the word found as well. I think the bill, the way it's crafted, really simply allows whoever is in power at the time to determine whether they think particular conduct gives rise to excluding that person from office. And we can look at current, relatively current history and say that someone like President Trump did that and should not hold office, or people who stormed the Capitol should not hold office. Whether they were convicted or not, this says found. But we go back 50, 60 years, I'm pretty sure the people in power would have thought that those engaged in the civil rights were being rebellious against whoever was in power. And I'm not saying that I agree with that. I'm just saying that the people in power probably would have seen that or found that to be rebellious, which would be completely inappropriate and, un-American. But I think the way the bill is crafted allows those who hold the seat of power to make those determinations themselves, which I think would lead us down a dangerous road and go backwards in some respects.
Are there any further questions or comments? Delegate Reed, did you want to have the final word? Okay. House Bill 363 is before the committee.
Madam Chair.
Delegate Converse Fowler.
I'd like to move that continue to 2025.
Okay. The motion is to continue House Bill 363 to the 2025 session under Rule 22. Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. That is a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? No. That bill is continued. House Bill 565. Delegate Askew, thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Madam Chair, today I have before you HB 565, which is a bill that would increase the accuracy of voter registration rolls by automatically updating a voter registration record if the voter provides a different address to the Virginia DMV during a licensing transaction. The voter would still have an opportunity to correct the change if needed by automatically syncing voter registration records with DMV records. Virginia can significantly reduce the number of votes with outdated registration records and the cost of undeliverable election mail. This policy has been updated across about 10 states, including Kentucky and Colorado. Madam Chair, in this bill, the Virginia DMV skips the question at the time of the DMV transaction. Instead, it automatically detects whether the voter actually needs this update, and this is only for license, not vehicle or any other transactions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Delegate Bloxham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question on because this is going to increase a lot more transactions, and I see in the impact study it says it won't, but I didn't know if you talked to DMV about the cost that they should incur, or if DMV is here to answer that question, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, I do believe I have someone here, not sure if they're from the DCMUs. Do you mind,
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Please come forward.
Thank you, Delegate Askew. Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Adisa Muse. I'm with the Secure Election Project, which advocates for the nonpartisan elections security reforms that reassure confidence in the electoral process. We think this is a great bill, and it does increase the level of engagement electronically between DMV and elect. Currently, the Virginia DMV asks registered voters during their licensing transactions if they want to update their voter registration. And if a customer agrees and updates their voter registration, the DMV transmit the updated information to the elections officials who update the registration record and mail the voter information to a confirmation notice to the voter. Under this bill, DMV skips that question at the time of the transaction. Instead, they first automatically detect whether the voter actually needs to update their record. So we estimate that this will take some time, as far as DMV and elect creating or working upon existing systems. But I don't think that it would take, and we estimate that it won't take any more than 124 man hours. And this is from, yes?
So I'm sorry, there's a little confusion. Are you speaking to a substitute?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I have a substitute, Madam Chair.
Okay. So the substitute has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the substitute is now properly before us. I would like for to entertain a motion for this bill to go by temporarily. Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded that this bill will go by temporarily. Thank you, Delegate Askew. We'll skip 904 and call up, Delegate Anthony, you're 998.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Here we have, need to move the committee substitutes for 998.
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry. The substitute for 998 was properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? So the substitute is now properly before us. Delegate Anthony?
So the substitute kind of incorporates the language from HB 1238, where we would extend the deadline for local offices of elections to ascertain results from 7 days to 10 days. And this allows the Office of Elections the time to ensure that all ballots are counted and results are certified by the deadline set in code. It's going to, as we expand the opportunities for people to vote, of course, with absentee ballots having to be postmarked by Election Day and then into the offices by 3 days later, it gives the Offices of Elections more time, and this reduces their workload. Of course, in November 2023, when Friday after the election was Veterans Day, voters were permitted to return their ballots by Monday following the election. And of course, this only provided 1.5 days to process and count such ballots and finish adjudicating and counting provisional ballots. And so this adds in a tremendous workload, and we want to make sure that there's accuracy in count. Of course, with the extension of these days, it does not, for the upcoming elections, mess with our president electoral votes here. So I hope for there be the will of the body to report 998. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Bloxham.
Was there a substitute for this bill?
Madam Attorney?
Madam Chair, Delegate Bloxham, the substitute that is available online is simply the incorporation sub, and it takes the language from HB 1238 and moves that into the vehicle bill of HB 998.
So HB 998, as listed on the computer, excuse me, Madam Chair, is the one that we're discussing.
If it's the substitute version, so it just looks like what we drafted DLS? Okay.
I don't see the substitute.
Okay, just give us 1 second. The committee will be at ease. The bill we are discussing is House Bill 998, which is the vehicle to move forward after incorporation with 1238. As we're looking into why that isn't listed yet, as she's speaking and as we're discussing, if you look at the contents of 1238, that's what we're discussing. Okay, Delegate Anthony, were you done? I didn't want to cut you off just because of the confusion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just speaking more to the bill. Okay, so this was brought to us by the Voter Registrars of Virginia, where they talked about the canvass and certification of 7 days after an election. Of course, with digital registrars, they work in excess of 90 hours a week alongside their staff reviewing absentee ballots. This is a top priority for them, and so they want the extended days to allow the allotted time to process, to accurately review, and of course, count those provisional ballots. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and I do believe it is now up online. Delegate Henson.
Sorry, the button.
Okay, Delegate Bloxham, did you have a further question? Okay. Are there any other questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in favor of either 998 or 1238? Please come forward. You have 1 minute. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joanne Speeden. I'm the president of the Virginia Electoral Board Association, speaking for the association. And I'll be brief because Delegate Anthony took my entire speech away. So we support this bill very strongly. I just want to mention that the reason for this is because changes were made to the timing of processes in the past several years. So this requires that this particular process also have changing to the timing. So please, we appreciate you supporting this bill and thank you for consideration.
Morning, Madam Chair. Jennifer Vaney, Fairfax County. We thank the delegate and also Delegate Sickles for bringing this forward. As has been discussed already, we support this. Fairfax County strongly supports the expanding of the opportunities over the last several years that the General Assembly has enacted, but would request the needed time to accurately count all the ballots, certify the results, and submit those abstracts, especially on years where Veterans Day is observed on the Friday after when the ballots are due.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Katie Boyle with the Virginia Association of Counties, also here to register our support for the bill to provide a little bit of flexibility to localities to accomplish these tasks. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Josette Bulova with the Virginia Municipal League. We appreciate the expansion of this and think it'll be very helpful to all of our localities. We support the bill. Thank you.
The League of Women Voters supports both 998 and 1238, so I'm sure we support the combined version. Sorting mail ballots by precinct is burdensome. Registrars needed time to verify same-day registrants and count their provisional ballots. Compounding the workload is that no mail was delivered on the Friday after the two last general elections. Large localities barely made it in time. Tackling these tasks right after the elections puts intense pressure on our election administrators right after an election, particularly a presidential one. There will be many new voters and emotions will run high. Please remember that this extension of the certification deadline at local level would not affect the timing of the final certification by the State Board of Elections. This bill just plain makes sense.
John Breeden. I'm on the King William County Electoral Board, but I'm speaking as an individual. I strongly support this bill and appreciate it. I would note only that it says does not exceed 10 calendar days. We will make every effort to do it as quickly as we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the room to speak in opposition to the bill? Okay, we'll go online. I see Stephanie Isles. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but you can go forward with your testimony. You have 1 minute.
Good morning, Madam Chair and esteemed delegate members. We would like to thank Delegate Anthony and Sickles for introducing this bill on behalf of the Voter Registrars Association as well as the Virginia Electoral Board Association. We appreciate your support and giving us additional time to review, process, and count ballots for our voters. So please pass this bill. We thank you for your support, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the subcommittee? From the committee? It's been moved and properly seconded to report as substituted. House Bill 998. If the clerk will please open the rolls and members cast your votes. That substitute is reported on a vote of 22-0. Thank you, Delegate Anthony. Delegate Cardoza, you have a few in front of us, so we're going to let Delegate Ward go, and then we'll hear from you. Delegate Ward, House Bill 1330.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, members of the committee. It's great to be here with you this morning to discuss House Bill 1330. Quick summary, this bill seeks to clarify registered voters who are confined while awaiting trial or convicted of a misdemeanor can still vote by absentee ballot. There is an amendment. We had to change the bill slightly at the request of the Sheriff's Association, and it just dealt with, removed the need for them to transport these inmates to polling locations. The purpose for this bill, a little background, was there was some confusion among different localities on administering absentee ballots to confined individuals. The current legislation does not address this issue, prompting the proposal for a new bill as a solution. This bill just aims to expand voting rights for registered voters who are confined for specific reasons, such as awaiting a trial on a misdemeanor conviction, and that all eligible voters or eligible individuals can simply fill out an online petition for an absentee ballot and receive it promptly, and that's the purpose of this bill.
Okay, Madam Attorney, if you could please report the amendment.
Madam Chair, on line 15, we're going to strike the A period, and then the substantive amendment is on line 24. We're going to strike all of lines 24 through line 28, so we're eliminating subsection B.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion on the amendment? It's been moved and properly seconded for the amendments. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? So the bill is now amended before us. Are there any questions from the committee? Delegate Milday.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question for the patron. And I'm not sure if the amendment addressed this. I couldn't get to it quickly enough. But if you miss the deadline and you're allowed to vote in person, is it possible that you would have missed the deadline through the fault of the prisoner?
It could have been. You really don't know the reason why someone might have missed the deadline, but all this addresses is that they are allowed to get an absentee ballot and for it to be returned.
It still allows for the...
Delegate Milday.
Madam Chair, a follow-up. It still allows for an in-person voting, though, in the cases where you've missed a deadline for absentee.
What I wanted to make it as simple as possible, and I'm just looking at absentee ballots. If we can get that done in code, okay. That's right now is what we're working on.
Right, Madam Attorney.
Madam Chair, to answer the delegate's question, the line amendment that was adopted will actually strike that provision that would have said if someone who was in jail missed the deadline, they had the right to be driven to the polling place. So as Delegate Ward has presented, it will only be the language about absentee ballots that are mailed.
Any further questions from the committee? Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the legislation? Anyone here to speak in opposition? Oh, sorry, please come forward.
The League strongly supports this legislation. Although registered voters who are confined while awaiting trial or those convicted of just misdemeanors are entitled to vote, and sometimes they encounter uncooperative corrections officials. This bill would simply require that those in confinement allow voters to apply for and receive absentee ballots.
Thank you. And seeing no one that stood up in opposition, we'll go online to Allison Robbins. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Allison Robbins with the Voter Registrars Association. We strongly support this bill. We support the codification of requirements that require the General Registrar to coordinate with other agencies and other facilities. As stated in our comments previously, we already are required to accommodate persons who are confined. So this just codifies the procedure that registrars are already following and ensures that we encounter cooperation when we have to accommodate the confined persons. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Scott, did you have a question? Yes, ma'am. Delegate Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for the patron. As I'm just sitting here listening to testimony, the question that I have is, let's say somebody is from Southwest Virginia and they're confined in my district, very far away. Would the facility be required to coordinate with the registrar from their home locality in addition to my locality? How would that work with somebody being outside of their district and being provided a ballot for their district? If you could help me understand that process.
To be honest with you, I cannot answer that question at this time. What I am trying my best to do is to make sure it's clear that everyone that has not been convicted of a felony or anything still has the right to vote.
Delegate Scott, I also believe that the coordination would be between requesting the absentee ballot and it coming to the person that's being confined. So I think that's just the request. It comes to where they are, they vote, it goes back to the registrar's office.
Yes, Madam Chair, I understand that. It's just that during testimony, it was said that the facility would coordinate with a local registrar. And so that's where I was trying to get some clarification.
Okay. Madam Attorney.
Madam Chair, may I just add one comment? This is already in practice as a law. What we're trying to do is codify it to make sure everyone understands it. So many people, there was so much confusion, we wanted to make sure it was clear in code.
So this is already being done?
In a lot of places it is being done, but there are some places that needed clarification, and that's the purpose for the bill, is to make sure everyone understands that these people still have a right to vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Delegate Ward, just restating what you said already. So these are for people that have a legal right to vote, and you're just making it clear that just because they're confined in an institution, that institution is not allowed to suppress their vote just because they're being confined. They have a legal right to vote.
Yes, Madam Chair, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions from the committee?
Move to report.
Second. As amended?
As amended.
It's been moved and properly seconded to a report with amendments, House Bill 1330. If the clerk will please open the rolls. And House Bill 1330 passes on a vote of 16-6. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much.
Delegate Cardoza, you have 3 bills before us. If you'll start with 1149.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. HB 1149, well, first off, there should be some amendments which will remove constitutional officers from the effect of the bill. Oh, she's shaking her head no, okay. There was supposed to be some amendments to remove constitutional officers from the effect of this bill.
So we do not have any amendments. If you want to present and then see if that can come forward, but we don't have any amendments.
Absolutely. So this bill would allow the governor, after being, of course, asked by citizens to initiate the removal process to the circuit court in cases of obviously corrupt public officials. For instance, and of course it's aimed specifically at non-constitutional officers. It could be anything from someone admitting to crimes while in office but being outside of statute of limitations, things of that nature. This will allow the governor to step in and initiate that process. The reason for this bill is because of the way the recall process is currently. If someone announces something at a certain time, it would leave less than 30 days to do a recall process because of the way it's structured, which means that even if the people's will is to recall an official, there will be no way it can be done. And of course, I would love an amendment to say that it's not constitutional, not for constitutional officers, if that would be the pleasure of the committee.
Delegate Cordoza, as I recall, the line amendment would have been on line 43, striking local elected officer or local officer has been appointed to fill a local elective office and replacing that with any constitutional officer.
I would see that as a friendly amendment.
It's been moved and properly seconded to add the line amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the amended bill is before us.
All right.
Did you have any further comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Does the committee have any comments or questions? Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the legislation? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Please come forward.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Katie Boyle with the Virginia Association of Counties. Here in respectful opposition to this bill, this would be a significant change to the removal process. I mean, we think it's a very serious matter to remove a public official. It should be deliberate. This would short-circuit the process. It would substitute the governor's judgment for the will of the voters who put that person into office. I know there was some discussion about sort of allegations of crimes or convictions of crimes, but I think it's important to note that the removal statute also speaks to things that are a little bit more subjective about neglect of duty or perceived incompetence in office, so it is a little bit broader than crimes. And so we would respectfully request that you oppose this bill. Thank you.
Coming back, Delegate Cordoza, would you like the final word?
Yes, I would just say that it does specifically only say that he can move in cases of corruption. And then it would also would not bypass the circuit court process. It would simply initiate that process.
Delegate Cordoza, can you point to where it does say specific to crimes?
To corruption.
Or corruption?
Okay, again, it was supposed to say for corruption only. That was also put into the bill. The language is not here now, but it was supposed to only be for corruption only for in cases of corruption.
Madam Chair.
Delegate Converse Fowler.
I move to pass by this bill indefinitely.
Second.
At the appropriate time, we will entertain the motion. Let me first see if there are any questions from the committee. Now is the appropriate time. It's been moved and properly seconded to PBI 1149. If the clerk will please open the rolls. Did you guys want the 2 minutes? Did you? Okay. If the clerk will please open the rolls. And that measure is PBI'd on a vote of 21 to 1. Your next bill is 1529.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, 1529 would extend the term of office for general registrars from its current to 8 years. And I have received, this bill was brought to me from some of my local registrars saying they don't have enough time before it's to really do their work and get things set up the way it needs to be set up before they're up for again to be reelected. So but I did receive a notification that they would request that maybe it'll be. They've heard a lot of feedback that 8 years is a little too long, so they have made some modifications that 6 years, if someone would want to, they would be amenable to 6 years as well. But it really just extends their term of office.
Okay. So, no. Delegate Cordoza, if we don't have amendments that were put in through DLS, we're looking at the introduced bill. Mm-hmm. And so in front of us right now is the introduced bill of 4 years to 8 years.
Yes.
Are you requesting that we amend it to 6?
I just received that text that to amend it to 6, so I would request that amendment.
Madam Chair.
Delegate O'Quinn.
I think that would be on line 18, and the amendment would be to strike the word eighth and add sixth.
It'd be line 13. It'd be.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're looking at different versions.
Madam Chair,
You're right. It would be 13.
It would be a series of line amendments.
17, 18. I think that's it, Madam Chair.
And did I hear that it was moved and properly seconded for those line amendments? Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded for line amendments to change the 8 to 6 and 8th to 6th. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so now we have an amended bill before us, and I'm sorry, just because that was kind of throwing us off, can you just quick 2 sentences clarify why this is an important change that you're presenting?
Oh, yes. So the general registrars in my area have requested this simply because they said they do not have enough time to set up their administration before they have to get back in line to be reelected. They just want to extend it. It'll help get rid of confusion. It'll help make sure their processes are in order and be ready for especially large presidential elections, which happen every 4 years. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Seeing that, is Delegate Converse Fowler.
Madam Chair, a question about who the text was from that prompted the 6-year amendment. Just curious who that was.
My registrar, my local registrar.
Your registrar.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Delegate Green. We'll come back to that. Did you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay, we'll come. You can keep your button on. We can come back to that. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the legislation? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition of the legislation?
Hi. Joanne Speeden, speaking for the Virginia Electoral Board Association. Our primary concern with this bill is the extension of the general registrar term from 4 to 6 years. As far as I know, there's only one elected official and no appointed officials who have a 6 or 8 year term. In general, we believe the vast majority of general registrars are competent, conscientious, hardworking people who we respect and who go well beyond the basic requirements of the position. We are in a prime position to see how hard they work, and we appreciate their dedication. However, on rare occasions, there have been some general registrars who are poorly performing and need to be replaced. This legislation makes it very difficult to remove a poorly performing general registrar because with recent legislation, the removal of a general registrar is now through the circuit court instead of being in the authority of the electoral board. Having a 4-year term provides a tool for the electoral board to be able to not reappoint a poorly performing general registrar. We ask that you not pass this bill to provide an unusually long term for a selected official.
Thank you. Please come forward.
Nancy Smith, Middle Resolution PAC, speaking on behalf of myself. I don't believe that there's been sufficient justification made for extending a term of an individual. Most of us perform within a 4-year period, whether we're elected or unelected, public employees or private. So I think this is sort of a weak case for extending a contract. Thank you.
My name is John Breeden. I'm speaking as an individual. Respectfully oppose the legislation. The patron is absolutely correct. There's a lot involved in learning the job. However, 4 years should be sufficient. You're going to have multiple primaries and general elections, so 4 years is ample time to learn how to do the job, to be effective. And at that point, we're looking to saddle the voters with 2 extra years of an ineffective registrar if we extend it to 6 years. So I do oppose the legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll go online, first starting with support, and we have Walter Latham. You have 1 minute.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I want to apologize if there's any miscommunication. I had emailed Delegate Cardozo earlier about how we were amenable to changing it from 8 years to 4 years if there's concern about the length of service. But the reason for us bringing this bill is a lot of us in this position witnessed what transpired in 2023 last year. Many of you might have seen the news revolving around Buckingham County. There's a lawsuit pending in the city of Lynchburg. And it appears in some instances that partisan considerations are interfering in the administration of elections. So we wanted to have this bill so that the terms would start in a time that would be able to minimize the influence of the change in the party of the governor on the electoral board into not reappointing or appointing a registrar based on political considerations. That's the main motivation behind this bill.
Thank you. We'll now go to opposition online. Lindsay Zay?
Yes, thank you. My name is Lindsay Zaya. Good morning, Chairwoman and members of the committee. Like I said, my name is Lindsay Zaya. I'm with Virginia Institute of Action. We oppose HB 1529. We agree with the current practice that allows more frequent appointment of registrars as it creates a proper balance of allowing electoral boards to assess the reappointment of a registrar and to consider their candidates for reappointment if they so choose. We think leaving this decision more in the hands of each locality is the best practice and ask that you please oppose this bill. Thank you.
Okay, and Clarabelle Wheeler.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Clarabelle Wheeler. I'm a resident of Albemarle County, and I serve pleasure on the Albemarle County Electoral Board. Speaking for myself, I concur with what Chairman Speeden presented. 4 years is a reasonable term. There are no other appointed offices, singling out judges, of course, that have appointed offices that are excessive 4 years. People change, jobs change, people's capabilities change. And 4 years is adequate time for someone to learn their job and do it. We have elections at least 2, sometimes 3 or more times a year. Registrars need to be at the top of their game. And when they're not, they need to be evaluated and the job advertised to see if someone else can do the job better than the current person. This is not a politically motivated change of office. This is can we do the job adequately to serve the voters? Thank you very much. I oppose this bill.
Okay, thank you. Delegate Cardoza, you've brought quite a few of us that are usually on opposite sides of issues together on this one, but I will give you a very brief opportunity for any summary comments.
I will just say that the term of office, some people think 4 years is enough. I was originally told that they needed us a little more time because that presidential, in each year they have an election, but they only get one chance at the presidential, and each one is very, very, very different. So they need time to learn each type. So
thank you.
That was the original.
Are there any questions or comments from the committee? House Bill 1529 is properly before us. Is there a second? It's been moved and properly seconded to PBI 1529. Would either side like their 2 minutes? Okay. If the clerk will please open the rolls. And that is PBI on a vote of 17.
Hold on, we'll get it straight. We're trying to figure out how nice we're being.
You good? We're done? We good? 14-8. Okay, your last bill, 1530, we are running up against the deadline, so if we can hear 1530
I'm sorry.
As brief as possible. Thank
This one's very brief. This is also a request from the registrars, simply to give them some help. They would like for every 10,000 people that they would have a chief deputy registrar to help them go through the work of being registrar. So it's very general, just need help.
Delegate Cardoza, did you mean for localities with populations greater than 10,000?
Yes, I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Mm-hmm.
Delegate Cole.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for the patron. Roughly how much is this going to cost our localities for the additional staffers they're going to have to hire?
So we don't have Madam Chair, Delegate Cole, there is no fiscal impact for the state. I'm unaware of how much it would cost our registrars. I do have our registrar online who could possibly speak to that. I'm not aware of the cost.
Madam Chair, follow up.
Delegate Cole.
So while we don't have a fiscal impact for the state, there will be a significant impact in the localities, correct?
Again, Madam Chair, Delegate Cole. Again, I'm not sure of how much it will cost the locality, but again, there is a registrar online who could allude to that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any further questions from the committee? Anyone here to speak in support for House Bill 1530, please come forward. Anyone here to speak in opposition, please come forward.
Good morning again, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Katie Boyle with the Virginia Association of Counties, also here in respectful opposition to this bill. We appreciated the discussion with the patron about the aims of this bill. This is one of our rare cases where we're on opposite sides with our friends in the Registrars Association, but we do have to oppose the bill. I do want to stress our members are sympathetic to the needs of registrars' offices. We all know election administration is a year-round job. Several of our smaller counties that we've reached out to about this bill indicated that they had recently funded deputy registrars for the first time, or they'd converted part-time staff to full-time staff to address workload needs. Unfortunately, this bill takes a very top-down approach towards staffing and salary requirements, and we think it'll be particularly challenging for our smaller counties to comply with. So we do think a discussion about staffing in registrars' offices is important, but we feel this responsibility cannot continue to fall purely on localities. So we would encourage you not to move forward with this legislation, and I thank you for your consideration.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Josette Bulova with the Virginia Municipal League. I would like to align my comments with Katie Boyle from VACO. The problem really is the smaller localities don't have the funds or the ability to adhere to these burdens and limitations. Small localities already have problems with staffing issues, and the money is just not there at the moment. So for that, we oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, and I would like to remind the public that online testimony is at the chair's discretion. Because of our docket that we still have left, I will note that Walter Latham and Allison Robbins with the Voter Registrars Association of Virginia is online for support. Clarabelle Wheeler and Lindsay Zay are online for against. So thank you for being here, but we will give Delegate Cardoza just a brief moment to summarize, and then we'll bring it back to the committee.
It's just a bill to help out some registrars who have small localities, that's all.
Okay, so the bill is properly before us as a committee. Delegate Converse Fowler. It's been moved and properly seconded to PBI House Bill 1530. If the clerk will please open the rolls. And that is PBI on a vote of 17 to 4.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to turn this briefly over to our Vice Chair, Delegate Converse Fowler, so that I can present House Bill 904.
All right, House Bill 904, Chair Price.
Yes, so House Bill 904, first I would like to say it is long, but we use this opportunity to reorganize some sections of the code and to utilize some cleanup language. But the bill does four main things. It makes sure that the data that we are using for our voter rolls is a quality data source. It institutes a confidence score of 80 to make sure that before we are initiating any process to remove a voter, that it is based off really good information that we're confident in. It initiates a 14-day notice for anyone that is thought to have been convicted of a felony to receive the same opportunity that anyone else receives to push back against any attempts to take their names off the roll, to clarify any misinformation or miscommunication between systems, and it would also create a record such that every time a voter was removed from the rolls, a record would be created which would be subject to FOIA. While this is in response to a specific situation that has happened, moving forward, we are hopeful that this would prevent any further situation from happening. That really is the crux of the bill, but I can answer any questions that the committee has.
Thank you, Chair Price. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the bill? come up. Welcome. Thank you.
The League of Women Voters would like to thank Delegate Price for bringing HB 904, a bill that will improve Virginia's voter list maintenance activities and show the public many steps that are taken to ensure accuracy and security. This bill's provision will go a long way toward preventing incorrect voter purges. Record matching will be more precise, helping to protect eligible citizens from disenfranchisement and prevent those who are no longer eligible from voting in Virginia. The bill codifies the detail, security, and list maintenance procedures that are already in place throughout the Commonwealth. The bill will also strengthen record-keeping requirements, and it achieves better list maintenance and rebuilds confidence in our elections. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Tram Nguyen with New Virginia Majority. Thank Chair Price for carrying the legislation. I won't belabor it, but I do think as states are, list maintenance is very important, and keeping our voter rolls accurate is essential to our democracy. And as states are looking at list maintenance procedures and data sources, it's really important that we are using accurate data to make sure that our rolls are as clean as possible. So we support the legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Madam Chair, before I do have a substitute. I'm sorry, everything that I just said is in the substitute, but I do have a substitute.
Do I have motion and second? All in favor of the substitute?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, substitute carries. Substitute's before us.
And then, Madam Chair, I do have a line amendment, and I appreciate those with the Elections Department speaking with me. I would like to the attorney to report it, but it's basically a delayed enactment clause for the new system, but only for the parts that would affect the new system.
Could council report the amendment?
Yes, this will be an amendment to the substitute. At the very end, we're going to insert a third final enactment clause. It will read 3, that the provisions of this act shall become effective on July 1st, 2025, except that the provisions of Section 24.2-426.1 of the Code of Virginia as created by this act and Section 24.2-427 of the Code of Virginia as amended by this act shall become effective in due course.
Do I have an amendment or a motion to amend the substitute? All right, a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion, the amendment to the substitute is before us. Any other comments?
And so, Madam Chair, just to reiterate, the delayed enactment would be for any of the changes to the system that would be needed, but we would like to move forward with the 14-day notice and some of the other pieces, and so that's what that amendment was for.
Thank you, Chair Price. Any other questions from the committee? All right, we had any other supporting, any other opposed? All right, any other questions or comments from the committee, and we operate on motion.
Madam Chair, second.
I have a motion to report the substitute as amended. Any other questions or comments? All right, clerk, if you could open the roll.
Thank you.
All right, that reports 14-7. Thank you, Delegate Price.
Thank
Chair
you.
Price.
We will now be moving to our subcommittee report. Nope. I'm so sorry. So I would entertain a motion for us to reconsider House Bill 742. It's been moved and properly seconded for us to reconsider House Bill 742. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? So House Bill 742 is now before us. Delegate O'Quinn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we heard House Bill 742, and I think what the dialogue that you and I got into back and forth was that we all agree on where we need to get, but it's a little more complicated to get there than maybe we previously thought due to staggered terms of board members, the election of the governor. So we now have a substitute that I would like to move, Madam Chair.
Is there a second on the substitute? It's been moved and properly seconded that we approve the substitute for House Bill 742. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the bill as substituted is before us. Delegate O'Quinn.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So first of all, I appreciate your help and certainly that of counsel, Meg does a great job on this, so if you like anything that's in here, it's primarily her writing. So what the substitute does is it shifts the power and duty of appointing the Commissioner of Elections away from the governor and grants the State Board of Elections as it's currently structured with 5 members, staggered terms with a 3-2 split, with the 3 being the party of the governor. So the timing of the commissioner's appointment is then adjusted so that instead of the appointment being made in the governor's first year, it would be made by the state board in the governor's second year. So the reason for that is that would give the governor time to make his first 3 of 5 appointments to the board, which is always his or her, their 5 appointments to the board, and that follows longstanding tradition. And this ensures, of course, that the state board's political balance is in favor of the governor's political party. There is a fail-safe in the event that the board cannot reach a consensus. Then at the time that the current commissioner's term is set to expire, if they can't, the current commissioner is deemed to be reappointed to a 4-year term subject to confirmation. So that's not as big a deal as it might sound, because we could then pull them off the resolution. The board could have a replacement candidate, and we could move forward at that point. I would say that also, in addition to depoliticizing the process, it gives the board quite a bit of incentive to get to a consensus pick with the 2027 legislative elections and the 2028 presidential elections both coming down the pipe. So, Madam Chair, that is the revised bill. We had initially, in the prior bill, bumped the board up to 7. There is an economic impact to that, so we can discuss, I think, at a later date if we want to try to go from 5 to 7, but this keeps it at 5 and deals with the issue of the staggered terms.
Thank you. And Delegate O'Quinn, I appreciate you entertaining all of my hypotheticals. I do believe this is as close to getting us out of that loop that we had talked about in subcommittee. And as you said, depoliticizes, because we do not know at this moment who the next governor is going to be. And so this process would be in place absent of that. Are there any questions from the committee? Is there anyone in the room here to testify in favor of the legislation? Please come forward.
Madam Chair, Rachel Lawless, Confidential Policy Advisor at Virginia's Department of Elections. The department supports this bill. Thank you for working on it. We appreciate that.
Thank you. Anyone here in opposition? Delegate O'Quinn?
Madam Chair, that's the bill. I appreciate you entertaining it and appreciate council's assistance with it.
Move to report.
As amended. Second.
As substituted.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report with substitute House Bill 742. Any questions? All those in favor, please cast your vote. We just made history. That bill reports with substitute on a vote of 21-0. And we will now go back to House Bill 565 that had gone by temporarily. And speaking with the patron, I would entertain a motion to carry that bill over to the 2025 session in accordance with Rule 22.
So moved, Madam Chair. Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded to carry over House Bill 565. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay. And now we will go very quickly to our Elections Administration Subcommittee report. Delegate Glass, starting with House Bill 55.
Gratitude, Madam Chair. This bill has an amendment. I move to adopt the amendment.
It's been moved and properly seconded to adopt the amendment. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is now properly amended.
Okay, this bill would provide the process for canceling a primary election under limited circumstances. In a situation when a primary candidate withdraws his candidacy after the early voting period has begun and the result is only one remaining candidate who is now unopposed, the remaining candidate will be declared the nominee of the office sought and the primary election would be canceled. In the line amendment, it simply strikes an enactment clause directing a work group to be convened. The bill has a delayed effective date of January 1st, 2025. The subcommittee recommends reporting with an amendment on a vote of 8-0, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report with amendment. Any conversation? No, thank you. Okay, clerk, please open the rolls. And that bill is reported with amendments on a vote of 22-0. House Bill 90, Delegate Glass. Chair Glass.
House Bill 90, this bill makes a change to our current sore loser law, which says candidates at a primary election who are defeated will not have their name printed on the ballot for the general election. This bill would add primary candidates who withdraw from the primary to those persons who cannot have their name printed on the general election ballot. The subcommittee recommends reporting on a vote of 7-1, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report. Are there any questions, comments? If the clerk will please open the roll. And that bill is reported on a vote of 18-3. House Bill 176.
This bill has a substitute incorporating House Bill 413 and House Bill 429. I move to incorporate House Bill 413 and 429 into House Bill 176.
It's been moved and properly seconded to incorporate 413 and 429 into 176. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Those bills are now incorporated. Delegate Glass?
This bill would require candidates for constitutional offices to be identified on the ballot by their political party if the candidate is nominated by a political party or at a primary election. Currently, only candidates for federal, statewide, and General Assembly office are identified. The subcommittee recommends reporting with the substitute on a vote of 5-3, and I so move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded to report with substitute. Are there any questions? Delegate Milday.
Madam Chair, I asked the patron what the purpose of this is, why they think it's important.
Delegate Gardner, if you want to come on up.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Who is the delegate? Good morning. The reason it is important is that if we really care about voter rights and transparency, then voters want to know who they're voting for. This only affects those who choose to seek the nomination or run in a primary as a partisan, that it be indicated on the ballot. Currently, it is not.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further questions from the committee? House Bill 176 was recommended to be reported with substitute and properly seconded. If the clerk will please open the rolls. And that bill fails to be reported on a vote of 9-13.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee.
Delegate Glass, House Bill 409.
House Bill 409, this bill would allow the governing body of a locality that has been subject to a court order imposing a remedial election system under the state and federal voting rights law to adopt an ordinance to convert one or more at-large members of such body to a single-member districts. This bill provides that members of such governing body in office on the effective date of such ordinance shall complete their terms of office. The subcommittee recommends reporting on a vote of 5-3, and I so move.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report House Bill 409. Are there any comments or questions from the committee? Seeing none, if the clerk will please open the rolls. And that bill fails to report on a vote of 11-11. Delegate Glass? House Bill 417.
House Bill 417, this bill would require a special election to fill a vacancy in a local This bill would require an special election to fill a vacancy in an elected local office that is subject to a ward-based or district-based residency requirement to be ordered and held within 365 days of the vacancy occurring. The subcommittee recommends reporting on a vote of 5-3, and I so move.
Second. It's been moved and properly seconded that House Bill 417 be reported. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, if the clerk will please open the rolls. And that bill fails to report on a vote of 11 to 11. House Bill 623.
House Bill 623 provides that in addition to voters who are members of a protected class and the Attorney General, any organization whose memberships includes voters who are members of the protected class or any organization whose membership whose mission in part or is to ensure voting access shall be entitled to institute civil rights clause. Excuse me. Having a moment, Ms. Chair, Madam Chair, excuse me, shall be entitled.
So Madam Chair, is that just adding that a group on behalf of a voter can be added to those that can initiate a cause of action if there's been a vote that was diluted or denied?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
And was there a recommendation from the subcommittee?
The recommendation from the subcommittee is to vote, reporting on a vote of 5 to 3, and I so move, Madam Chair.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report House Bill 623. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, if the clerk will please open the rolls. And that bill is reported on a vote of 12 to 10. Delegate Glass, House Bill 989.
House Bill 989, this bill has an amendment. I move to adopt the amendment.
Second.
The amendment has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The bill is properly amended. Delegate Glass.
This bill would require the Department of Elections to provide certain specific information for voters on its website and to provide a version of its website in which all parts are translated into a language that is spoken by a language minority group, including that any page linked to a translated page to be translated. As amendment, the department's website must also allow a voter to review his or her current voter registration information and voting history. The subcommittee recommends reporting with amendment on a vote of 8 to 0, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded to report with amendment House Bill 989. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, if the clerk will please open the roll. And that bill reports with amendments on a vote of 22 to 0. House Bill 1490, Delegate Glass.
This bill has an amendment. I move to adopt the amendment.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded to adopt the amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The amendment is accepted. Delegate Glass.
This bill would authorize a governing body of any county or city to establish voter satellite offices for absentee voting in person to prescribe by ordinance the dates, hours, and hours of operations for such offices. The bill prohibits any reduction in the dates or hours of operation of such offices to be enacted within 60 days of any general election. The amendment updates the cross-reference. Subcommittee recommends reporting on it with amendment on a vote of 5 to 3, and I so move.
Second. It's been moved and properly seconded to report with substitute. Are there any questions? Seeing none, if Madam Clerk, you'll open the roll, and members cast your votes. And that is reported with amendment on a vote of 12 to 10. Delegate Glass.
House Bill 1534, this bill has a substitute. I move to adopt the substitute.
The substitute has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That substitute is accepted.
Madam Chair.
As substitute, this bill would eliminate the process by which any voter can challenge in a polling place on the day of election the right of any other voter to cast a ballot. The bill also eliminates the process by which any 3 voters could challenge a voter's registration before the general registrar. The subcommittee recommends reporting with the substitute on a vote of 5 to 3, and I so move.
So it's been moved and properly seconded to incorporate House Bill 185 into House Bill 1534. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And so that is incorporated. Delegate Gilbert. Leader Gilbert.
Madam Chair, some members were just unable to view the substitute that had been adopted. and we were trying to determine how to view that. And I'm told it may be in IHOD, but not in LIS.
Madam Chair, Delegate Gilbert, the substitute for House Bill 1534 is posted on LIS. It should be working, but if you're on Chrome, apparently that sometimes can cause a wrinkle.
I'm just the messenger, Madam Chair.
I'm looking at her. Sounds like a user error.
It's listed as a House Subcommittee amendment and substitute adopted, so that might be the case.
You see it, Delegate?
February 6th.
Is it February 6th?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So it was recommended to be reported with substitute. Any further questions? Madam Clerk, please open the roll. And that is reported with substitute on a vote of 12-9. Okay. And Delegate Glass.
House Bill 1490. This bill has an amendment. I move to adopt the amendment.
I'm sorry, which bill?
Oh. Did I fix?
I think we're now on the ones that we can vote on in block.
I thought I missed one. So the subcommittee recommends the following bills be continued to 2025. House Bill 375, which would enter Virginia into an interstate compact known as the Agreement Among the States to Elect the President by a National Popular Vote, and House Bill 694, which would allow officers of elections at central absentee precincts to begin ascertaining and recording the number of votes by absentee ballots at the time of noon on the day after the election. And I so move.
It's been moved and properly seconded to continue for House Bill 375 and House Bill 694 to the 2025 session in accordance with Rule 22. That is a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Those bills are continued. Does that complete your report?
That completes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I want to thank our committee, our clerks, our staff, our attorney, all of you that have been with us for our meetings. This is our last meeting before crossover, so the next time we meet, we will be entertaining the Senate bills. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. It's been moved and properly seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye, and we are now adjourned.